research, we join, unity and truth, we facilitate, teaching and learning in all disciplines and cultures, transforming Africa's education. AAU, the hub of excellence, shaping Africa's educational thoughts. AAU, spring of talents, web of passion, amazing, this is promoting innovation, upholding community, equity, and standards, transforming Africa's education. We espouse perspectives and last scholarship, we research, we join, unity and truth, we facilitate, teaching and learning in all disciplines and cultures, transforming Africa's education. AAU, the pillar of higher learning, spearheading Africa's development. AAU, one of friendship, power, fellowship, partnership for higher education. Africa's intellectual advancement are focused to achieve African liberals. We espouse virtues and our scholarship. We research, we join, unity and truth, we facilitate, teaching and learning in all disciplines and cultures, transforming Africa's education.
And emerging leaders, and all valued guests joining us from across the continent and beyond. On behalf of the Association of African Universities, I extend a very warm and heartfelt welcome to you all. It is indeed my distinct honor and privilege to welcome you to this historic occasion, the official virtual launch of the 24th Conference of Rectors, Vice-Chancellors, and Presidents of African Universities, COREViP 2027, and the commencement of the Association of African Universities Diamond Jubilee Celebration, which we also call AAU at 60. I would like to extend a very special welcome to our esteemed dignitaries who have joined us today. To our host institution, KCA University, represented by the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Isaiah Wakindiki, thank you so much for your partnership and for their hospitality as we prepare to gather in Nairobi next year. To our sister organizations and development partners who have honored us with your presence, including the Association of Arab Universities, the China Association of Higher Education, the World Academy of Sciences, the European Commission, the African Academy of Sciences, ORCID, UNESCO Campus Africa Initiative, the Inter-University Council of East Africa, the African Development Bank, the International Association of Universities, and the many others who have joined us here today. We are deeply grateful for your solidarity and for the shared commitment to advancing higher education in Africa. To the University President, to the Rectors, Vice-Chancellors, Ministers of Education, to the researchers, innovators, students, and distinguished stakeholders joining us, thank you also for making time out of your busy schedules to be part of this landmark event. A special acknowledgement goes to our Secretary General, Professor Olusola Bandele Oyewole, who will shortly lead us through the official launch. Also to Mr. Ransford Bekwe, who is the Chief of Staff for the COREViP 2027 Committee, and also finally to Professor Pulen Lankambula, who is the Vice-Chancellor of the University of South Africa and who will bring us to a close at the end of our session. Indeed, today marks more than a ceremonial launch. It marks the beginning of a journey towards reimagining what African universities can and must become in the decades ahead. The theme of COREViP 2027, Universities for Africa's Future, Repositioning African Universities for Resilience, for Relevance, and Global Impact, is a call to action. It is a declaration that African universities we must adapt, and we must lead the way. It is a recognition that the future of our continent, which is the world's youngest with over 60% of its population under the age of 25, depends on the strength, on the creativity and ambition of our higher education institutions. COREViP is Africa's premier higher education leadership forum, and therefore in 2027, we will all gather in Nairobi, Kenya, hosted by KCA University at the Safari Park Hotel, to address 5 critical pillars that will define the future of our universities. And we'll be hearing more deeply about this as our Secretary General takes the floor to present. These 5 pillars are future skills and employability, research and innovation transformation, digital and artificial intelligence transformation, sustainable financing and institutional resilience, and finally, global partnerships and African leadership. At COREViP 2027, we are expecting over 1,000 university leaders, ministers of education, industry partners, youth representatives to convene in Nairobi. But today, we are beginning the conversation virtually, and we are inviting the entire world to join us, and therefore we really appreciate all of you here for joining us. This launch also heralds a year-long celebration of 6 decades of the Association of African Universities. For 50 years, together with all of you connected on this call today, the AAU has been the trusted continental platform connecting African universities and governments, international organizations, and global higher education networks. Since 1967, we have collectively championed institutional development, quality research advancement, academic collaboration, and policy advocacy, among several others. Today, we celebrate that legacy, but most importantly, we are recommitting ourselves to the work that lies ahead. Before I hand over, let me briefly guide you through what to expect within this session. We'll first of all receive a presentation by Mr. Ransford Bekwe, who is the Chief of Staff of the COREViP 2027 Committee, and he will provide an overview of AAU conferences and set the context for today's launch. We will also hear from our host, Professor Isaiah Wakindiki, who is the Vice-Chancellor of KCA University. And then we'll receive goodwill messages from our distinguished partners. We'll receive goodwill message from the European Commission, represented by Ms. Deirdre Lenen. We'll also receive a presentation from Obrel Global, represented by Professor Ramon Torren. And then we would also have an address by the African Union. We would highlight our gathering with a keynote address, which would also mark the official launch. And this will be by our distinguished Secretary General, Professor Olushola Oyewole, during which he will unveil the banners, the flyers, promotional videos. And during that session as well, witness the go live of the COREViP 2027 website. We'll then conclude with the closing remarks from Professor Kulen Lankambula, Vice-Chancellor of the University of South Africa and a board member of the Association of African Universities. Distinguished executives, let me leave you with this thought, that Africa does not lack talent, and Africa certainly does not lack ideas. What Africa needs and what COREViP 2027 will help build is the systematic alignment of these assets into scalable, sustained impact. Today, we take the first step through this convening. Let us make this launch the harbinger of greater things to come for our universities, for our youth, and for the Africa that we are collectively building together. Thank you for joining. I now have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Ransford Bekwe to provide the overview of AAU conferences over the years. Over to you, Mr. Bekwe. You have the floor, please.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Felicia Kuagbeji, and distinguished guests. I stand on existing protocols duly established by my colleague, Dr. Kwagbeji, to welcome all of you to the official launch of the 24th Conference of Rectors, Vice-Chancellors, and Presidents of African Universities, COREViP. And my task here is just to give a brief overview of the AAU conferences and statutory events. And to do this, I'll just give you a background of the AAU for the benefit of those who are new to the organization. The Association of African Universities is Africa's apex higher education body that was founded in Rabat, Morocco, at a convening conference in November 1967. It is currently headquartered in Accra, Ghana, but the AAU has regional offices in Eastern Africa, Northern Africa, and Southern Africa. The association also has an office in Europe that is hosted by University of Nottingham, and then another office in Latin America. In terms of its governance structure, the AAU is led by the General Conference, the Governing Board, and the Secretariat, which is in Accra, Ghana. With regards to why I'm to speak, I have to put this structure in place that the AAU convenes 3 major continental statutory events that promote policy dialogue, institutional collaboration, knowledge exchange, and governance of the association. The first of these is its annual African University Day celebration, now converted into African Universities Week. And the primary purpose is to have a continental celebration and advocacy for higher education in Africa. One distinctive feature of the COREViP is that it is observed around the 12th of November every year. And this was from a resolution of the OAU, or the African Union, in 1994. And that resolution is CM/Resolution 1601, which focused on the role of African universities and institutions of higher learning in the development of the continent, in which the AAU played a very active role in passing it. So the African Universities Week showcases achievements of African universities and promotes higher education development. After the annual African Universities Week, we have what we call the Conference of Rectors, Vice-Chancellors, and Presidents of African Universities, the COREViP, the reason why we are here. And COREViP is held as a biennial event. So it's held once every 2 years, and it is a scientific and policy dialogue on thematic issues affecting higher education in Africa. When we organize the COREViP, we bring together university leaders, scholars, researchers, and other stakeholders for scholarly discussions, peer learning, and recommendations on emerging sector challenges. The third statutory event of the AAU is the General Conference, which is a quadrennial event, or is held once every 4 years. And the General Conference is the highest policy and governance forum of the AAU. And in every General Conference, we have the COREViP type academic discussions. But beyond these scientific presentations, we have the business segment that reviews collaboration. It reviews membership to the AAU. It reviews the AAU's programs. It reviews the budget of the AAU for the next 4 years. And it also elects a new governing board. So in brief, as we are focusing on the COREViP, it is held every 2 years, and it serves as the association's primary scientific and thematic conference. In our COREViP, we examine key issues affecting higher education in Africa. through plenary and panel discussions, through research presentations and policy dialogue. Over the past 30 years, the teams have evolved significantly to reflect changing priorities in the higher education sector in Africa. And these include leadership and governance, knowledge creation, African Union integration, transnational education, brain drain, sustainable development, higher education space and harmonization, graduate employability, internationalization, post-COVID transformation, excellence in higher education, innovation and sustainable development, and now digitalization and digitalization and transformation in Africa. Happily, in July next year, the KCA University in Nairobi, Kenya, will not only be hosting the 24th Conference of Rectors, Vice-Chancellors, and Presidents of African Universities, but it will also be celebrating the 60th anniversary of the AAU's establishment. This is a major milestone that we should all be proud of, hence the launch of this celebratory event today. We say well done to the AAU, well done to universities all over Africa, and well done to strategic partners of higher education in Africa. Thank you very much. Over to you, MC.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bequin, for running us through the celebration. Indeed, 2027 promises to be an exciting year for all of us as partners and as members of the Association of African Universities. And exactly a year from now, we will all convene physically in Nairobi. At this point, I would like to call over the hosts for 2027. This is KCA University for their remarks. We would all be heading towards Kenya, and we really want to hear from them in terms of what to expect, what preparations have already been underway. And to do that is the head of institution, Professor Isaiah I.C. Wakindiki, who is also a board member of the Association of African Universities, as well as the Vice-Chancellor of KCA University. Over to you, Prof. You have the floor, please. Okay, just checking if we have Prof in the room. Otherwise, we can move to the next item whilst we wait to have Prof join us. Okay, so Prof is unable to unmute. Can the technical team help with that? Similarly, all the other speakers, if we can give them co-hosting rights so they are ready to speak once they are called. Thank you.
We'll come back to KCA University later on. Let's go to the next item.
Thank you very much. For our next item, we'll be receiving goodwill messages. And to do that, we have our partners. We have the head of sector for human development, Directorate General for International Partnerships of the European Commission, Ms. Deirdre Lennon, who would be the first to give us her address. Over to you, Ms. Lennon.
Thank you, Felicia. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you hear me well. Thank you very much for inviting me to give you a goodwill message from the European Commission at the launch of the COREViP 2027. It's an honor. I think what the messages I would like to pass in particular is the role of the EU and our mission, which is really to reinforce and support our partners, but also the EU to become more resilient and strategically autonomous in these changing times with global challenges, more multipolarity, different crises, and how we envision the role of universities in this process. The Global Gateway is our strategy for implementing this agenda. What we want to do is to raise quality investments around the world to support sustainable development in priority areas such as education, digital energy, transport, and health. At the Africa-EU Summit of 2022, we made available an investment package where we're working through a Team Europe approach. So this approach is to bring together funding from the European Commission, but also contributions from our member states, their development agencies, their specialized agencies, financial institutions, the European Investment Bank, but also the private sector to have a more transformational impact. So that those investments are being rolled out across Africa as we speak in key priority areas that I've mentioned. But what we know is that we need skilled human capital to be able to have a transformational impact around these investments. We know that skilled human capital will attract foreign and national investments and will increase labor productivity by up to 30% in countries which have this skilled capital. That's why collaboration in higher education, innovation and research are essential for knowledge-based economic growth. Universities are key actors in this process, but we need to avoid and stop treating education, skills, research and innovation as in a silo, but really all parallel to the investments that are taking place across the African continent. And universities need to be part of these investments and development processes underway. So what we're trying to do at the European Commission is to embed education, skills, innovation and research around the different investments that are taking place, tailored to the context. So that means aligning higher education and research actors more systematically with comprehensive investment packages in priority areas, from skills, capacity building to the uptake of new technologies and innovation in global gateway flagships. We see a number of cases across the continent where there's significant investment going into the health sector, into the pharmaceutical sector, for instance, into green hydrogen, into transport, into energy, into the strategic corridors. And we're seeing universities in Africa taking an active and role in contributing in terms of research, innovation, and skills around these investments. And that, we believe, is the way forward in the coming years. We also we know that we're in times where funding is more scarce, and we need to come up with innovative financing solutions so that we can build around these investments and come up with solutions whereby we can address skills mismatches, and we can grasp all the employment and innovation opportunities that there are to be had at country level. I think there are many opportunities, and we're seeing that under our EU-Africa partnership in the field of higher education. We have opportunities to collaborate, to bring in universities around the regulatory harmonization under the African Continental Free Trade Agreement to boost labor mobility and recognition of skills. We need to find innovative financing models, so blended finance, guarantees, tax incentives to attract private investment around the universities. We need stronger ties between programs like Erasmus, Horizon Europe, and the regional centres of excellence so that we can build upon and capitalise on the good practice that is taking place across the continent. Public, private and academic partnerships also offer the chances to build up new ideas and to how can I say that, consolidate the efforts that are taking place within the universities. There are plenty of challenges ahead also, but I think working together as we do through our partnership, we'll be able to address these in the coming years. The European Union has placed higher education very much as the focus of our programs with Africa, and supporting Africa's aspirations for building its strategic autonomy, strength and resilience to address the major challenges. The Youth Mobility for Africa flagship, the Africa EU Innovation Agenda. Many of the programs we'll be hearing from the colleagues from Obrial after about on their work in HAQUA. The AAU, our partner in these efforts. And I'd also like to mention the upcoming Study and Research in Africa action, which I think will be a very important action for universities to be able to work with, and I hope this will be a good contribution towards the COREViP conference in Nairobi. Thank you very much for welcoming me today.
Thank you very much for those very insightful words and for the goodwill to the AAU towards COREViP. We really appreciate the EU for being a direct partner of the Association of African Universities and also of many universities directly. We look forward to working more closely, and just to stress your highlight on the need for innovative financing solutions to address the skills mismatch. Those should be one of the key things we'll prioritize in our discussions at the main conference. So we thank you so much. Next, we'll be receiving a goodwill message from Prof. Ramon Torrent Mako, who is the president of Obriel Global. You have the floor, Prof.
Authorities, dear friends and colleagues, it is a great personal pleasure and a high personal and institutional honor to be able to address to you this goodwill message as president of Obrial Global Observatory, Obrial in short, at the occasion of the launch of the 2027 Conference of Rectors, Vice-Chancellors and Presidents of African Universities, AAU's COREViP, to be held at the KCA University in Nairobi, Kenya, in just a year. A COREViP that will also mark the AAU's Diamond Jubilee at the occasion of its 60th anniversary. As many of you know, Obrial has the honor of leading the consortium that is implementing the more important European Union funded project on higher education in Africa. And of course, having as main partner the Association of African Universities. So we have a long experience of collaborating with the AAU. We have participated in previous COREViPs, so we hope we'll be able to be there also next year. And as you know, the collaboration with the AAU has not only been always fruitful, but it has increased in depth, in warmth, and in effectiveness since the moment in which Professor Olusola Oyewole took over as Secretary General of the association. So again, it is a great pleasure and a high personal and institutional honor. On substance, I do not want to dwell too much on all the issues you will be discussing ahead of the next year's COREViP. First, because there are too many to be summarized in just 2 or 3 minutes, but also because I believe that it is great time to leave to Africa to set the agenda, to lead the discussions. There have been too many mal-conceived advices and too many recipes sometimes, too many explanations of models to be copied from people and institutions in the North, in Europe, or in North America. So I will concentrate myself in a single issue that we have, that has guided us all the time in the implementation of HACWA, and that for which I'm sure I share the views of Professor Olusola Oyebolu. And that is the need to place in the center of all action in Africa in higher education the idea of empowering African universities as agents of integration and development. Integration, because this is the framework we all want for the Africa we want, an integrated Africa, not a unified Africa, but an integrated Africa in its different regions and its different nations. But also on development, because this, I think, we all agree, must be the overriding political objective for all our action. We can look forward to other low-level, I would say, specific objectives, but we must all work for development of all nations and of all citizens of this growing in importance and in population Africa. So, with the wish of being able to contribute to empower African universities as agents of integration and development, I come to the beginning. I wish you the best for the incoming 2027 COREViP and the Diamond Jubilee of the Association of African Universities. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Prof. Ramon and Obrel Global. We, as the AAU, we have jointly been implementing the HACWA initiative, and currently we are the 3rd phase of the harmonization, accreditation, and quality assurance in African higher education initiative. So this phase is running between 2023 to 2028, and is mainly representing commitment of the joint agenda between European and African unions, and AU is a lead partner working closely with HACWA and other core team members to implement this initiative, mainly aimed at equipping African nations with the skilled professional leaders and administrators who are needed to promote sustainable development and to boost trade and investment and strengthen democratic values across active citizens. So thank you so much for that remarks. We really appreciate you, Prof. Ramon and team. We had also invited the African Union for a remarks, but currently we don't see team members connected. We would call them back in once we see a representative from African Union represented on this call. On that note, at this point, I would like to call back in the KCA team for their presentation. If we have Professor Vincent Onyera from KCA here, who is leading the local organizing committee, he would be representing the Vice-Chancellor and CEO of the institution for the institution's official remarks. Prof, you have the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Felicia. Thank you very much, the technical team, for unmuting KCA University to also make some remarks. I would like to start by introducing myself. My name is Professor Vincent Onywera. I'm the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Charge of Research, Innovation and Partnerships at KCA University, representing our Vice-Chancellor and CEO, Professor Isaiah I.C. Wakindiki, on this virtual launch of the 24th Conference of Rectors, Vice-Chancellors, and Presidents of African Universities, and also the launch of the AAU Diamond Jubilee to celebrate 6 years since it was born. Allow me to stand on the extensive protocol that has already been laid by those who have gone ahead of me. But I should congratulate the Secretary General of AAU, Professor Olushola Oyewole, and the leadership, the board of the AAU, on this historic occasion. I take cognizance and appreciate the vice-chancellors and rectors of other African countries, here present, development partners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I would like to acknowledge the organizing committee of COREViP in Accra and the local organizing committee here at KCA University, development partners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Good day, hamjambo, assalamu alaikum. I would like, on behalf of KCA University and the local organizing committee, to welcome you all to this historic occasion. It is a distinct honor and privilege, both as the Vice-Chancellor of KCA University and as the Vice President of the AAU, representing the Eastern African region, to join you today for this historic virtual of the launch of this major and huge continental movement. Today, we officially open the road to the 24th Conference of Rectors, Vice-Chancellors, and Presidents of African Universities, and commemorate the Diamond Jubilee of our umbrella body, the Association of African Universities. Allow me, on behalf of KCA University and the Eastern African region, to sincerely appreciate the AAU leadership for successfully hosting the 3rd edition of the Positioning Your University for Global Visibility workshop just a few weeks ago here in Nairobi. The workshop brought together over 110 institutional leaders from more than a dozen African nations, reaffirming a vital truth. Africa's intellectual capacity is vast, and our collective resolve to command our rightful place on the global stage is unstoppable. The workshop was a powerful precursor and prelude to what lies ahead. It set the stage for deeper engagement on institutional visibility, research output, digital transformation, and global partnerships. Conversations that lie at the very heart of COREViP 2027. Ladies and gentlemen, hosting COREViP 2027 is a profound honor for KCA University, the city of Nairobi, Kenya as a country, and the Eastern African region. On behalf of the KCA University Council, the Management Board, staff, and student body, I express our deepest gratitude to the Association of African Universities for entrusting us with the responsibility of serving and servicing as your host and leading the local organizing committee. COREViP is the premier assembly of higher education leadership on our continent. It is where strategy is forged, dynamic partnerships are built, and the future of African scholarship is charted. that this assembly coincides with the AAU 60th anniversary makes it all the more monumental. For the 6 decades, the AAU has been an unwavering voice of African higher education. The theme of COREViP 2027, Universities for Africa's Future, repositioning African universities for resilience, relevance, and global impact, is a direct call to action. As our institutions navigate technological disruptions, artificial intelligence, climate vulnerabilities, and evolving economic demands, we must move from isolated repositories of knowledge to open, resilient, and globally visible engines of development. As the local organizing committee, our commitment is absolute. We are preparing to deliver a 5-star, world-class conference experience. Set in Nairobi, a vibrant capital where technology innovation at the Silicon Savannah meets Africa's forward momentum, KCA University is ready. KCA University is ready to showcase the best of African hospitality, academic excellence, and administrative execution. Working side by side with the AAU Secretariat and the organizing committee, government agencies, development partners, regional bodies, and industry partners, we will ensure that every delegate experience, from academic sessions and exhibitions to networking and protocol, is executed with flawless precision. To our governments, private partner leaders, development partners, and other sister universities across Africa and the world, Nairobi is ready. KCA University is honored, and the doors are open. Join us, sponsors, partners, and active delegates in making COREViP 2027 a watershed moment for higher education in our continent. Together, let us celebrate 60 years of AAU's visionary leadership while building the foundation for the next 60 years of continental impact. Welcome to Kenya. Welcome to the pride of Africa. Thank you. Asanteni sana. May God bless AAU. May God bless the continent of Africa. Thank you. Asante sana.
Thank you very much for that beautiful message, and we all can't wait to join you there in Kenya. Thank you, Prof. We'll receive a final goodwill message from the African Research Universities Alliance, and this will be by the Secretary General, Professor Japon, who would give us remarks over the next 3 minutes. You have the floor, Prof. We are indeed really glad to have Arua join us. As we all know, Arua, all the Arua members are also members of the Association of African Universities, and therefore it's our privilege to have the Secretary General of Arua deliver a goodwill message here as well. Over to you, Prof. You have the floor.
Good morning, colleagues, and it's a pleasure to join you today as you launch the next COREViP meeting in Nairobi, which marks your 60th anniversary. On behalf of the African Research Universities Alliance, I wish to congratulate AAU for this very important milestone. As a former Vice-Chancellor, I know the role AAU plays on the African continent and how it has shepherded the activities and provided leadership for many universities here on the continent, and the role it plays in engaging policymakers at the national and continental level to ensure that higher educational issues come onto the fore of the agenda. Even as we celebrate the 60th anniversary, it is my prayer and hope that this aspect will be intensified. Indeed, one of my major concerns and passion has been the role African governments have played in funding of research on the continent. This leaves a lot to be desired. We have signed on every dotted line to commit governments to fund research to the tune of at least 1% of our GDP. However, this is far from the reality. Currently, apart from South Africa, that is doing about 0.67% of their GDP, all other countries are way, way behind. It is my hope that we will continue this engagement and galvanize our governments to provide the necessary resources to support research in our universities as leaders of the higher education ecosystem in our countries. This is difficult, but I believe that with the collective effort of all our universities, this could be achieved. ARUA is ready to work hand in glove with AAU to ensure that the goals of higher education are achieved on this continent. As the MC indicated, every member of ARUA is a member of AAU. We are only 23, but AAU is over 700 plus. So we congratulate AAU again on this momentous occasion and wish you very well. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Secretary General of ARUA, for those remarks. And as the AAU, we also stand very ready to work with, various higher education institutions who are also driving the agenda of Africa's higher education forward. And ARUA is a proud partner that we want to continue this engagement with. So thank you for those opening remarks. At this point, distinguished team connected on this call, it is my honor to invite our Secretary General to deliver the keynote address and officially launch COREViP 2027. To do that is Professor Olushola Bandele Oyewole, who is the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities, a position he has held with distinction since 2021, and which his mandate was recently renewed unanimously by the governing board for a second 4-year term. He's a professor of food science and technology, food microbiology and biotechnology, with over 40 years of distinguished leadership in African higher education. Prior to his role at the AAU, Prof. Oyewole served as the Vice-Chancellor of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta in Nigeria from 2012 to 2017, where he led the institution's transformation towards becoming a world-class university. His continental experience includes serving as a senior expert at the African Union Commission, where he coordinated flagship initiatives, including the Mwalimu Nyerere Scholarship Scheme, the African Quality Rating Mechanism, and the African EU ACP Mobility Program, among several others. Prof. Oyewole, we are indeed glad to have you formally launch the COREViP with your address and your presentation. You have the floor, Prof. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kwagbezi. I hope you can see my screen. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the... Can you see my screen?
Yet. Not yet, please.
No.
Okay.
Maybe we'll give you just a minute so that it comes up. It's coming up now.
Is it up now?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the Association of African Universities, I extend a warm welcome to all various organizations from across Africa and beyond. We are not here simply to announce a conference. We are gathered here to begin a continental conversation about the future of Africa. We are here to ask a fundamental question. What kind of university must Africa build today if Africa is to secure the future it desires tomorrow? The answer we give to this question will define the relevance of our institutions, the destiny of our young people, the competitiveness of our economies in Africa, and Africa's place in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, in the next few minutes, I'll be sharing with you my thoughts on the universities for Africa's future, repositioning African universities for resilience, relevance, and global impact. As many speakers have spoken, Africa today stands at a very historical moment. I look at Africa as a continent of extraordinary possibilities. And we have the imperative to transform Africa into a great continent very soon. Why am I saying this? Africa has extraordinary possibilities in our young people. We have the largest and fastest growing demographic young people in the world. Africa is highly blessed with vast natural resources. You need to meet the young people in Africa and see their commitment to digital transformation. Our cultural diversity is a strength that we can hinge on to make this continent a great continent. Ladies and gentlemen, I've talked about the youth population, but a youthful population does not automatically become a demographic dividend. Resources that we have that is natural do not automatically become something that can develop us. We need transformation. And areas in which we need transformation now than ever before include knowledge and skill. We need to empower these young people, make them to be capable and adaptable for the development of Africa. Our research needs to move away from journal publications to innovations and even to actual industrial development. We need to build strong institutions. This is the vision that we have as we look forward to this next COREViP. Ladies and gentlemen, our universities, they should not just be places where degrees are awarded. They should be it is where societies produce knowledge. It is where society, prepare leaders. It is where society gets solutions to the problems. And it's a place for Africa to imagine the future. Africa needs its universities. Our universities should produce knowledge. We should prepare our leaders. We should solve the problems of Africa and nurture our citizens for commitment to Africa. The questions before us today is this: will Africa make it? The answer is our universities are very important. Africa needs its university for the future. Our university should educate our youth for tomorrow. Our universities should connect our research to innovation and development. Our universities should produce the values that we need as leaders in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, Agenda 2063 of the African Union has placed a big responsibility on universities in Africa. We can no longer continue to be institutions awarding degrees. It's now time for us to be at the center of development. Our universities should be the motivating force for Africa. We should move away from survival to strategic repositioning in our various institutions. I know that for the past, we've been talking about financial pressure, we've been talking about infrastructure deficit, we've been talking about policy instability, especially when government changes in our various countries. We've been complaining about inability to retain our talents. But can I tell you, I look into the future. Africa is the future. Africa is the future for the world, on the condition that universities should reposition themselves. We need repositioning in our universities now than ever before. In the face of the emerging artificial intelligence, in the face of everybody feeling the effect of climate change, in the face of digital destruction in the whole world, in the face of a demographic pressure for which we in Africa must empower our youths for the future. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the spirit of COREViP. Our universities must move beyond just asking, do we continue to function? But they should start putting themselves on the driver's seat of development. This will require bold thinking. It will require continental cooperation. It will require a measured commitment to our development. And that's why in this COREViP, we are going to discuss some very important imperatives for African universities. Number one is that we need to build resilient universities. Universities that are capable of absorbing shocks, adapting to change, and emerging stronger than ever before. Are we ready to be that university that will anticipate disruptions, absorb shocks, and emerge stronger? We want to strengthen our universities for the future. And that's why, please, for our development partners, our university leaders, come to COREViP 2027 and get energized. You know, this where we need to be resilient is in financial resilience. For so many years, our universities have depended on our government. It's high time that we build world-class universities, not on fragile financial foundations. The university of the future must develop diversified and sustainable financial models. And when you come to COREViP 27, we shall empower leaders on what to do about financial diversification in our various universities. Another area of resilience is digital resilience. No university in Africa must be left behind. Digital transformation is no longer optional. A university without adequate digital capacity risks being disconnected from the rest of the world. We should not allow this to happen. We need reliable connectivity. We need digital competencies in our universities. We need to invest in artificial intelligence and digital platforms. And we need to ensure digital inclusion, not only for the researchers, not only for those in academia, but for all the stakeholders in the university system. Ladies and gentlemen, universities in Africa should also empower our countries for climate resilience. There are so many options in Africa to overcome the climate challenges. We need renewable energy. We need climate-smart agriculture. We need to improve the security, make water available, and we need to be prepare for disasters. Our countries cannot do all this without our universities. So our universities are very important. More importantly, who is going to drive all this resilience in Africa? Our institutional leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to build a new crop of leadership for African universities. People with vision, people who are capable to lead us. And these are the challenges, these are the empowerment that will be taking place at COREViP 2027. This third imperative for universities in Africa today is that we need to build rich universities. Universities whose knowledge, skills, and research respond to the real and evolving needs of the African society. Ladies and gentlemen, a university may be old, well-resourced, and prestigious, but knowledge and research for the need of the society. It risks losing its fundamental purpose. That's why it's at COREViP 27. We need to rethink research. We also need to know that we must move from degrees to competencies. Free graduates of African universities must possess the skills for the future: critical thinking, entrepreneurship, disciplinary collaboration. We need to empower our young people. For sure, curricula must change to reflect the vision that we have for the young people of the future. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to be part of this move? Are you ready to make your own university to be relevant to the future? Will your university build the future youth that will drive the development of Africa? Start to COREViP 27. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been saying this for so long. I believe that leaders are listening to me. For so many years, professors have been struggling to publish, especially in that may not even have relevance to African development. It's high time we move from publications to impact. Research is fundamental to every university, but the question is, we must increasingly ask ourselves, after publication, let our researchers move from publications to innovation. Let them move from innovation to application and making impact upon our society. This is the future of our university. This is the university that will build the future of Africa. Universities that are connected to research networks within Africa. Universities that are linked to industries. Universities that are well funded through research and through sustainable means. We need universities that are visible. I'm so glad that the workshop that we had in Kenya just a week ago, promoting the visibility of your university. I hope we will be able to do the same workshop in many other parts of Africa. The imperative for us, which is also going to be what we shall be discussing in Nairobi, is that we need to build universities with global impact. Ladies and gentlemen, that is globally respected will also be locally transformative. This should be the future of African universities. And universities must be judged by more activities. We should make Africa a priority, but our relevance should be global. Global excellence with African purpose. This is the vision which we hope to move our university to. Ladies and gentlemen, free universities should start to ask themselves, what impact am I making in my local community in Africa to improve health, to promote agricultural productivity, to promote social mobility, and to introduce new technologies to our generation? I hope our leaders are listening, and they will not know that for so many years, Africa has been consuming knowledge, has been imparting knowledge from outside Africa. We have been imparting ideas, we have been imparting curricula, and even technologies. It is time for a change. The universities for the future must produce knowledge. To produce knowledge and research, please, to other parts of the world. This is the future that we look forward to. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot do all these things by being isolated universities. We need collaboration. So please, if you are a university leader and you are not connected to the Association of African Universities, you are not helping your university. No African university can solve African challenges alone. We need to collaborate together. The challenges are many, but let me tell you, the challenges facing us are common. Climate change, pandemics, economic transformation, cyber security. But can I tell you, when we work together, universities, we can solve these problems. The universities within Africa, including degrees and doctoral programs. Let us promote student and staff mobility. Let us share our infrastructure. I'm really looking forward to a new program supported by the European Union, study and do research in Africa. It's high time that Europeans start to look at universities in Africa as a place of study. It's high time that people see our universities as centers of excellence for extraordinary research. I hope you can join us to make this to be. Ladies and gentlemen, that platform where we shall come together is COREViP. It's a continental leadership platform where we examine common challenges, develop shared responses, influence policies, and define the future. To be part of this COREViP. Ladies and gentlemen, one thing we should be doing in this COREViP is that we are going to give a special place to the youth of Africa. Africa's greatest strategic resource today is the people, especially young people. We can give to this population dividend in Africa. And young people should be graduates with competencies. We need to educate them and give them the competencies. We need to empower them to be entrepreneurial. We also need to bring them to research. Many of our young people don't want to teach in universities. They don't want to go to university to do research. We need to bring them their interest. This is the future of Africa. Students who are co-creators of the future universities. Young people, wherever you are, let me tell you today that COREViP is for you. Because we've been talking about artificial intelligence and future knowledge. Africa will not be left behind. And through AAU, we call this to be. Artificial intelligence is already shaping African universities in our research work, in medicine, in church, among others. As we discuss together in COREViP, we shall be discussing responsible artificial intelligence use, the imperative. We hope that with artificial intelligence, Africa will be able to develop responsible use of artificial intelligence for development. Ladies and gentlemen, in concluding this presentation today, let me share with us 7 important strategic shifts that we need as universities in Africa. Number 1, let us shift away from isolation and start to collaborate. Number 2, universities in Africa, let us stop being consumers of knowledge from other people. Let us be on the driver's seat, producing knowledge ourselves that will benefit the world. Number 3, let us not just give out degree certificates. Let us ensure that we are our graduates with the skills and competencies that they need for their development. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that when you come to COREViP 27, you'll be empowered to move away from government dependency to strategic collaboration that will empower your university financially. Your research work must make impact. Ladies and gentlemen, technology, we must be creators of technology, and our university must become long-term transformation in collaboration with our various governments. We hope that as we come to COREViP, universities' leadership shall be empowered. We need courageous leaders for a transformed continent. Please, ensure that when you come to COREViP, you're not just coming as the Vice-Chancellor. Let the registrar be with you. Let your services join you in Kenya, because it's going to empower everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, me to welcome every one of us to COREViP 2027, a moment of decision when universities will start to build the future of Africa. Thank you for listening. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think we are all very powered and very gingered, and we really can't wait to join the AAU team and KCA in Kenya. That was very powerful. I've seen a number of people were asking if we can share the slides, so we will do so that we can engage with it more closely. At this point, following SG's address, we'll play some official unveiling videos that the team has put together. I would hand over to the technical team to lead us through that session. Thank you. Over to you, team. Okay, thank you very much. We have another one, which is coming up shortly. Over to you, technical team.
For 60 years, the Association of African Universities, AAU, has championed collaboration, innovation, and excellence in higher education across Africa. For 6 decades, universities across the continent have worked together to advance knowledge, develop human capital, and drive Africa's transformation. Now, as the AAU celebrates its Diamond Jubilee, the continent's higher education community is preparing for a landmark gathering. From 20th to 23rd July 2027, Nairobi Safari Park Hotel, Kenya will host the 24th Conference of Rectors, Vice-Chancellors, and Presidents of African Universities, COREViP 2027, to commemorate AAU's 60th anniversary celebration. Co-hosted by KCA University, this special edition of COREViP will bring together university leaders from across Africa, government policymakers, global higher education partners, industry leaders, development organizations, technology innovators, research institutions, youth, and student representatives, and other higher education stakeholders. Convened under the theme, Universities for Africa's Future, repositioning African universities for resilience, relevance, and global impact. The conference narrative connects leadership, investment, innovation, skills, AI, partnerships, and policy. Positioned as a springboard for the future, the program uses the anniversary to launch new initiatives, establish legacy mechanisms, secure commitments, generate declarations, and create investment opportunities among the numerous engagements, as the conference would be a continental policy platform attracting heads of states, presidents, prime ministers, education ministers, and development banks, among others. The conference also offers an opportunity for various communities of practice in higher education to meet, network among themselves, to strengthen their professional collaboration, and plan training sessions to enhance their delivery capacity. These categories of personnel include academic leaders, bursars and finance officers, university librarians, registrars and academic affairs officers, quality assurance officers, ICT and chief digital officers, student affairs and counseling officers, university advancement and partnership officers, researchers and student leaders. COREViP 2027 sponsors are not only exhibitors, but integrated into investment fora, roundtables, partnership marketplace, reception events, innovation pavilion, and an award ceremony. Universities and other academic networks are invited to leverage the AAU's 60th anniversary summit to organize their mini summit alongside the Nairobi event. Be part of this historic Diamond Jubilee celebration. Register today and join us in Nairobi, Kenya from 20th to 23rd July 2027.
Thank you so much. I saw many of us smiling. I'm sure we spotted ourselves or our VCs or some of our partners in there. And with that, finally, maybe I'll just go through some brief highlights of what is expected at the conference, and then we would also have a quick walk through the conference website. In terms of key highlights, the program would really be using the anniversary to launch a number of new initiatives. We would also be establishing legacy initiatives, some of which the SG spoke about. We also want to leverage the session to secure key commitments from key partners who will be gathered at COREViP 2027. We will be generating declarations and creating investment opportunities. I've actually seen a number of us exchanging our contact and asking for connection. So there will be a lot of networking on site at COREViP. Among the numerous engagements at the conference would also be a continental policy platform, which would attract heads of states, which will attract presidents of various countries, prime ministers, education ministers, and development banks, among others. The conference will also offer the opportunity for the various communities of practices in higher education to meet and to network amongst themselves. And therefore, just to reiterate, our SG did mention that when VCs are coming, they should come with other leaders, business and finance officers, university librarians, registrars and academic affairs officers, quality assurance officers, ICT and chief digital officers, student affairs, student leaders, and then various groups, because we really want to create the room for them to equally engage, just like we've been doing at our previous conferences. COREViP 2027 sponsors will also not just be exhibiting, but they will be integrated more strongly into the investment fora that will be happening, into roundtables, into partnerships marketplace, into the key reception event and innovation pavilion, which will be open, and similarly the award ceremony. So we are inviting all institutions, all partners connected here to leverage the AAU 60th anniversary and the summit to also organize your mini sessions, mini side events, and mini summits alongside the Nairobi event. We are expecting at least 1,000 participants, and we all have to make this happen. We thank you all so much for connecting. Just to let you know that 1 year ahead of time, our conference website is actually ready. And therefore, if we can quickly show it, and we'll make the link available, so when we have time much later on, we can engage with it. Also, maybe just to say that we'll keep populating it as speakers and as partners come on board, and as things begin to emerge more strongly, we would be updating it. If we can have the website shown, thank you. Okay. So distinguished team connected here, this is the conference website. Frank, if you can scroll down, it's showing photo from our last event, which is our last COREViP in 2023, but we also hosted our last general conference in Morocco after the Nairobi event. It features information about the event, so when you go, you can read more about it. For keynote speakers, currently we have the president of the AAU, Professor Kenneth Matengo, who is the Vice-Chancellor of University of Namibia. We also have Professor Olushola Oyewele. We've also featured Dr. Nicholas Patrici from Obrio. But as I did mention, we really will be updating this as speakers' slots get filled and as stakeholders' information become more available to populate. As highlighted earlier, this conference is underpinned by 5 key themes and 5 key pillars. Pillar 1 is focused on future-ready African universities, transforming teaching, learning, and skills development. If you click it, it shows further information on what exactly will be covered over here. It will focus on key areas around artificial intelligence, around digital education, around curriculum transformation, entrepreneurship, and several others. Employability is here as well. Similarly, future workforce preparation. Pillar 2 is focused on research, innovation, and African solutions. If you click, it drops down to provide you further information. Over here, we have key thematic areas centered around research, around innovation ecosystem, around commercialization, around university industry partnerships and entrepreneurship as well. Pillar 3 is focused on resilience and sustainable universities. How can we ensure that African universities are resilient and highly sustainable beyond the next decade? And over here, we'll be having key discussions focused on governance, focused on financing, focused on institutional sustainability, and several others. Pillar 4 is, we'll be throwing a highlight on issue of ethical leadership and excellence. As we know, ethics play a very core role when it comes to research, when it comes to use of AI in our higher education environment, among several other core areas of our work. And under that, we would have the opportunity to discuss university autonomy, we'll discuss ethical leadership, we'll also have discussions around quality assurance and transparency. Finally, Pillar 5 is focused on global African higher education partnerships. And this would create the platform for us to focus on internationalization, which the AAU has been championing very strongly. It would also create the platform for us to have discussions around our diaspora engagement. How can we ensure that we are leveraging the high quality knowledge resident in our Africans in other continents to contribute back to the development of African higher education? Would also be focusing on regional collaboration, and therefore would have our various partners from China Association of Higher Education and all the other various groups that we work with join us strongly to have critical discussions. And then global partnerships will also be strongly engineered and promoted. The program for the sessions are also filling up quite quickly, and therefore we would encourage that for institutions that would want to feature strongly on the program, this is the time to connect with the Chief of Staff and organizing committee so that you secure your slot. I know several institutions have already reached out and it's still ongoing, so let's plan to do so as quickly as possible. The website also features a conference gallery where we have put together photos of some of our past events so you can explore it when you have the time. It's featuring photos from our 16th Quadrennial General Conference hosted in 2025 by UM6 and P and then UM65 both in Morocco. It also features our COREViP in 2023, which was hosted by the University of Namibia, whose VC serves as our current president of the AAU. It also features the past Conference for Rectors, Vice-Chancellors, and Presidents of African Universities in 2019, hosted in Egypt. And then our 14th General Conference, which was hosted here in Accra, Ghana, is also featured. I see the SG and then the current Vice President of Ghana, of the country Ghana, who was then a board member of the AAU, featured in those photos, among several others. So let's explore these. Information on registration is featured here. And I think we are giving ourselves a whole year to get ourselves ready to participate. various categories have been availed to us. For AAU non-member delegates, for early bird delegates, for standard registration, which member universities will benefit from, for corporate and industry delegates as well. We want the host country to benefit as much as possible, and therefore there's a subsidized rate for Kenyan universities. We also want to see students engage more strongly, and therefore a reduced rate for PhD and other students. Similarly, for Kenyan students have also been availed. Our organizing committee in charge of logistics, in charge of making sure the key components of our event have been working very strongly with the local organizing committee in Kenya, and therefore hotels where team members or participants will even be staying have already been earmarked. We have engaged them. They already have subsidized rates for us. So these hotels are also presented to us 1 year ahead of time, so we can engage them, have our booking, and start making ourselves ready to engage. So Safari Park Hotel is the main venue, but there are other hotels as we can see displayed. So these are all there if we can make time and engage. For those who will be sponsoring, we want to indicate that there is opportunity for partnerships and for sponsorship. And we want to say that the COREViP is offering a strategic visibility and lasting legacy. And therefore, the sponsors will not just be exhibitors, but they will be integrated more strongly into the session, as I mentioned earlier. We also have provided a session for conference updates. And therefore, if you go there, you would really be receiving very regular updates on key information, when there are calls for presentation, what the pillars are, and other information. We've also provided the contact with an email and phone numbers and various important links, and therefore engage all of us to explore this website. Like I did mention, we'll keep updating it, but we have launched it formally at this program 1 year to time. And we thank all of you for your contribution and for your support to the Secretariat. We also want to appreciate the local organizing committee on ground in Kenya, who are doing a lot to make sure that the Vice-Chancellor, the Deputy Vice-Chancellor mentioned, they are working towards hosting a world-class conference, and we want to appreciate them for all the effort. On that note, we can open the floor briefly for a few questions and answers, and then we would wrap up with the closing remark, which will be made by Prof. Pulen Nankambula. So it's Q&A session, or anybody who wants to make a general comment, the floor is open as well. I see 2 hands up. If there are additional hands, let's have it up, and then I can call all of you in that order. I would first give the floor to Professor Elizabetta Olarinde, who is a board member of the Association of African Universities, for her comment. And then I'll come to Farah. Thank you very much. Over to you, Prof. Olarinde. Technical team, can we ensure that for Q&A, people can unmute themselves? Or as the hands come up, let's make sure we are giving people the right to speak.
Olani didn't need to be unmuted, please. Technical?
Thanks for your patience as the technical team tries to rectify it. Okay, Prof can speak now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am so grateful to Almighty God to be part of such a dynamic AAU organization, which repositions the higher education on not only on the continent, but in the entire world, on each continent. I am grateful to the president and to Executive Secretary, our own Professor Oyewale. Sir, your team is formidable. Even though we are members, proud members of the governing board, we are very proud of your work that you are doing in Ghana. To Felicia and Kruma, you have always demonstrated the highest level of efficiency, professionalism, and skills. And the team, the local organizing committee far away in Kenya, we are grateful to the Vice-Chancellor and for the preparations. We are ready as an emerging force that wants to reposition with all efforts the higher education in the world. We are here to demonstrate that we can do it. Not only that we can do it, you can do it by excellence, to the point that all universities in the world will use Africa universities and our great association as a reference point. On this note, congratulations, AAU, for such a launch, fantastic, enthusiastic, and high-spirited official launch of COREViP 2027 and AAU's 60th anniversary celebration. May the good Lord continue to give us all the graces that we need to bring this celebration, this launch of COREViP at 2027 into a great success. Thank you for everything you have been doing, and please call on me, call on every one of us. We are ready to be there for you, not just as members, but as active members. Thank you. God bless AAU.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prof. I believe you speak on behalf of the Vice-Chancellors, and therefore, thank you so much. We look forward to welcoming all Vice-Chancellors across the continent and beyond. We really appreciate the support and this commitment for us to really call on you anytime. Thank you so much. Just to check, okay, we can now invite Fatoumata Jabi for your questions or your comments, please. You have the floor.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Fatoumata Jabi. I'm from the Gambia. I'm a PhD student in international relations at the Mohammed VI Polytechnic University, focusing on internationalization, educational public diplomacy, and soft power. I am really honored to be here. I don't have a question, but a remark on the role of universities in the development of Africa. And I think it's really important that we are all reminded about the role of universities in Africa. Africa currently has the oldest university in the world that is continuing to function and continuing to produce talents for the development. I think that as we move towards the Agenda 2063, that energy and that purpose and that aspiration should be reflected. Higher education is not a new thing on the African continent. When we look at from Timbuktu during the Mali Empire, all the way to Morocco with the Al Qarawiyyin University and other universities among the continent, we have always recognized the importance of creating and developing talents that will help develop our future. And as a young person myself, I am honored to be part of that process, and I'm honored to be part of seeing that come to fruition and see how that can be utilized to realize the aspirations that the continent want to see. And I think the young people are at the forefront of it, and we are ready to collaborate in any way possible to see the Africa we want come to light. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. As the AAU, we really believe in engaging young people in initiatives. We believe that young people are not future leaders. They are actually leaders that we have to work with now throughout our engagement. But I would also perhaps call in the SG following receipt of maybe 2 more comments, and then he can come in and respond directly or comment on some of these contributions that are coming up. At this point, I would like to invite Abdullah Issa. You have the floor, sir. Okay, I think maybe he's having challenges with unmuting. My understanding was everyone could unmute now. Technical team, can we check it? Okay.
Yes. I am Abdullah Issal, project officer of Intercountry Node of Higher Education of ADEA. I speak of sending the message of Executive Secretary General of ADEA, Albert Sengyumva. I speak in French. Donc, c'est un message de remerciement que je tiens à transmettre au nom du secrétaire exécutif de l'ADEA. Monsieur le Président de l'Association des universités africaines, Mesdames et Messieurs les recteurs, vice-chanceliers, présidents d'université, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs. Au nom du secrétaire exécutif de l'ADEA, je tiens à féliciter chaleureusement l'Association des universités africaines à l'occasion de ce 60e anniversaire et du lancement du COREViP 2027. Il souligne le rôle majeur joué par l'Association des universités africaines dans la promotion de l'excellence académique, de la recherche et de la coopération universitaire en Afrique. L'ADEA se réjouit du thème du COREViP 2027 qui met l'accent sur la transformation des universités africaines pour les rendre plus résilientes, innovantes et tournées vers l'avenir. Les priorités abordées, compétences du futur, recherche et innovation, intelligence artificielle, numérique, financement durable et partenariat stratégique correspondent étroitement aux objectifs de l'ADEA. Les messages réaffirment la conviction commune de l'ADEA et de l'Association de l'Université africaine, l'AUA, que l'éducation et le savoir sont les leviers essentiels du développement durable et la compétitivité du continent. L'ADEA salue le COREViP 2027 comme une plateforme stratégique pour bâtir une vision ambitieuse de l'université africaine de demain. Enfin, l'ADEA remercie l'Association des universités africaines pour son invitation et son leadership renouvelé et son engagement à renforcer la collaboration entre les acteurs du secteur éducatif et souhaite plein succès au COREViP 2027 ainsi qu'aux célébrations du 60e anniversaire de l'AUA. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur. Just to mention that as AAU, we operate in English, French, Arabic, and Portuguese. So we welcome language diversity, and at COREViP as well would have interpretation strongly integrated throughout the program. So we really welcome Francophone Africa, Lusophones, Arabophones. Let's all get ready to convene in Kenya. We'll take one more comment. I think I see two more. We will take it quickly within 2 minutes, and then SG would come in if he wants to comment on any of the feedback, and we'll wrap up with the closing remark. Over to you, Boke Rotenti, and then you'll be followed by Campbell Machel.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair, for giving me opportunity to speak. My name is Boke Rotente from Nelson Mandela African Institution of Science and Technology in Tanzania. I'm currently conducting my PhD research on digital banking, dynamic capabilities, and a sustainable competitive advantage in Africa and Europe. I would like to congratulate the Association of African Universities on this inspiring vision of COREViP 2027. I strongly agree that African universities must move beyond producing graduates to producing solutions that transform our society. As a young researcher, I would like to encourage the conference to place strong emphasis on digital transformation, artificial intelligence, innovation, and strong collaboration between universities, industries, and policymakers. I also encourage the AAU to continue creating opportunities for PhD students and early career researchers to engage directly with university leaders and policymakers. This because I see today's young researchers, how they will become tomorrow's academic leaders. Thank you very much. I look forward to participating to COREViP 2027. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we strongly agree with your submissions. Just to say that even just last week at the Secretariat, AAU hosted a continental workshop focused on digital transformation, and we had participants coming from across the continent. So we are really prioritizing this, and we will continue to feature it more strongly at COREViP as well. The final opportunity will be given to Kambo to end the Q&A session. Over to you, Kambo.
Okay, good morning. I want to speak French, sorry. My name is Dr. Atsi-Kambo, PhD in Government and Regional Integration of Pan-African University. I'm a General Coordinator of Pan-African FINDO, African Network of Young Researchers in Côte d'Ivoire. Merci beaucoup pour AAU, pour tous ces événements, pour toutes ces activités. J'ai une question. Ma question, c'est de savoir, est-ce que pour le congrès de l'année prochaine 2027, est-ce qu'il y aura un appel à candidature pour que les jeunes chercheurs que nous sommes présentons les travaux de recherche et aussi bien partager notre expérience? Est-ce qu'il y a une possibilité de sponsoring pour nous? Puisque je vous suis depuis des années, mais pour avoir des sponsors pour suivre vos COREP, c'est vraiment difficile. Est-ce que l'AAU peut nous aider à avoir des sponsors pour nous aider à participer l'année prochaine au COREP 2027? Merci beaucoup pour tout ce que vous faites pour l'éducation, pour les universités africaines. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup for ton contribution. I also see Prof. Bakri Said, and I think it's important we acknowledge him. Prof. Bakri served as the president of the Association of African Universities before Professor took over. So thank you very much, Prof. We really acknowledge you for making time to still contribute to the AAU more strongly. He still remains in the board, but we have a new president now. At this point, I think we'll move straight to the closing session. And to do that, it's my honor to invite Professor Kulen Lankam-Bula, who is a board member of the Association of African Universities. Over to you, Prof, to formally close the session. And to do that, it's my honor to invite Professor Kulen Lankam-Bula, who is a board member of the Association of African Universities. Over to you, Prof, to formally close the session.
Thank you, Program Director, Professor Dr. Felicia Nkrumah Kabetse. Let me take the opportunity to acknowledge the President of the AAU and the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Namibia, Professor Kamwi Matengu, and all members of the governing board, the Secretary General, our Secretary General of the AAU, Professor Olusola Bandele Oyewole, our host university Vice-Chancellor of KCA, Professor Isaiah Wakindiki, and all Vice-Chancellors, Rectors, and Presidents of African universities and African epistemic communities and African intellectuals participating this morning and afternoon, heads of governments and ministers of higher education, representative of the African Union participating virtually, Professor Sadiu Madugu, representatives of the European Union, represented by Ms. Dedri Lennon, representatives of Obril Global, Professor Ramon Torrent Macau, and esteemed colleagues and friends, good afternoon. Congratulations to the AAU on the 60th anniversary for being an enduring and innovative scientific association at the center of propelling Africa's sciences, innovations, and the development of critical knowledge citizens. It is a profound honor to bring this historic launch to a close, marking the commencement of COREViP 2027 and the AAU Diamond Jubilee. Our theme, Universities for Africa's Futures, repositioning Africa's universities for resilience, relevance, and global impact. It is not just a mere aspirational topic, but it is an urgent clarion call for us to reimagine who we are, our ontologies, our knowledge systems, epistemologies, and the civilizations that ground our knowledge and innovation system, and which must inspire what we must become as African universities in a changing world. For those of us who believe in progressive Pan-Africanism, we hold this moment in history or history as demanding intellectual honesty and a deep sense of duty to transformation. It is an opportunity for transformation and forming excellent knowledge citizens who must be committed in transforming Africa and contributing to the greater world. As the distinguished scholar, Professor Mahmoud Mamdani reminds us, it is striking in the post-colonial era how little the modern African university sometimes has to do with African institutions. He argues that the university draws its inspiration somewhat to its former past. For us, this is not a denial of our history, but a necessary precondition for building a future where our institutions serve African societies rather than replicating inherited templates. Amina Mama, in Rethinking Universities, equally reminds us that Africa desperately needs universities which are progressive, attentive to the grand questions of the continent, as well as which optimize science, innovation, research, but also advocacy as important levers for transformation. It is therefore important as we look into the future, as has been affirmed and articulated in the presentation by our Secretary General, Professor Olusoli, that we must also look forward. The global higher education landscape is undergoing seismic transformations, as Nathan Harden has provocatively argued in his article, The End of the University as We Know It. He projects that in 50 years, if not much sooner, half of roughly 4,500 colleges and universities now operating in the United States will have ceased to exist, as an example. Harden paints a future where access to college-level education will be free for everyone. The residential college campus will become largely obsolete. Tens of thousands of professors will lose their jobs. The bachelor's degrees will become increasingly irrelevant. He further observes that very few have been able to exercise their imagination to a point that they can perceive the systematic and structural changes ahead. The forces are reshaping higher education. Our digital disruptions, artificial intelligence, the unbundling of credentials which do not respect the borders. They are coming for the future on our own terms, shaping it with African values, African knowledge, African agency, and drawing on Africa's civilizations. It is true that Africa has demonstrated enduring legacies of universities, as our young academics who were commenting have already reaffirmed. From Timbuktu University in Mali, including the Sankore Madrasa, the University of Al-Qarawin or Al-Azhar in Egypt, and many which still exist today, bear testament to the imperative for strengthening and co-constructing and investing in strong, resilient, and transformative African universities. The examples are clear, we can draw on them. Therefore, the 5 pillars of COREViP 2027 as a blueprint which have been shared with us are quite important for us to remembering. First, future skills and digital transformation, we must move beyond being consumers of borrowed technologies to becoming architects of digital ecosystems that reflect African values, but also protect Africa's sovereignty. This requires societal, industry, and university partnerships that are generative, not extractive, and therefore, colleagues, as African universities, this is an important invitation for us to investing in the digital imagination and futures. Second, research, innovation, and Africa's solutions. For far too long, we've been sites of knowledge consumption rather than production. The African University Innovation and Research Platform must be institutionalized to what Mamdani terms epistemological decolonization, placing our societal challenges at the center of our research agendas, even as we shape the global knowledge arena. Third, resilient and sustainable universities. We cannot speak of relevance if our institutions are financially fragile and operationally deficient. The African University Resilience Index must become a diagnostic tool for institutional renewal, not a ranking mechanism, so that we can collectively vital environment for harnessing knowledge, leadership, and empowering leaders to ensuring that they lead universities in the continent that are attentive to these critical transformations that must be propelled. And therefore, we cannot build new institutions with old colonial habits in mind. Trust, transparency, accountability are not bureaucratic formalities. They are the foundations of autonomy, sovereignty, and public confidence, as well as the public capital. Fifth, global African partnerships and Pan-Africanism that is not insular. The Africa Global Higher Education Partnership Forum must position African universities as equal contributors to the global knowledge, not perpetual recipient of aid, ideation, and sometimes innovation. We must be co-constructors and co-partners and shape in the same spirit of the Africa Charter that has been approved by the AAU as an important imperative for partnerships so that this equilibrium and equality is honored. As we celebrate AAU at 60, we honor the foresight of our founders who understood the unity in higher education is fundamental for the development of our continent and its prosperity. The next 60 years must be defined not by reproducing the old models, but creating distinctly African models of excellence that can champion prosperity, well-being, and flourishing of our societies as it contributes to the partnership with other knowledge systems. Our journey to Nairobi 2027 begins now. Let us commit to a conference that does not merely diagnose our challenges, but mobilizes collective action to overcome them. Let us build universities that are resilient in the face of climate and economic shocks, relevant to the aspirations of Africa's youth and young adults, and impactful on the global stage. Distinguished colleagues, the work before us is our UNISA alumnus and the former president of South Africa, President Mandela, in his long walk to freedom, reminds us that after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are more hills to climb, implying that with all the important innovations and transformations of African universities, new sets of opportunities and challenges will arise. These will require African universities' agility and contributions to the future. And therefore, we thank the AAU for the invitation for Africa's universities to taking their place under the sun and to being the co-constructors of the future that us, Africa, aspires for. We also thank the AAU for bringing us together under the leadership of KCA University, which will be hosting the upcoming conference, and all of you colleagues for your steadfast commitment to the service of higher education in Africa and Africa's universities' contribution to the global knowledge and innovation systems. Together, we recommit to building and rebuilding innovative, transformative, and resilient Africa's universities, attentive and ready for the present and the future. We commend the AAU for the excellent work that it is charting, bringing about rectors, presidents, vice-chancellors, and universities' epistemic communities to being the partner of Africa's governments, Africa's citizens, Africa's imaginations for the future, but also Africa's construction of leaders for the present and the future. We thank you for the launch of the important journey towards 2027, and thank you, President, the board, and especially our esteemed General Secretary, who is the champion of the implementation processes of our work. Thank you very much. We wish you all the best and hope that all universities will be inspired to.
So, Professor Puleng, let me appreciate you for that very inspiring closing remarks. We are very proud of you and we thank you for your kind words, and we look forward to the participation of many universities from South Africa and Southern Africa. Please, in closing, let me appreciate the Vice-Chancellor of Afe Babalola University, Professor Elizabeth Olanide, who opened these comments today. We are proud of you. We thank you. And also to appreciate our other board members who are present on this platform, Professor Abu Wahab Egbewole, Professor Bakri Said, our former president. We really thank you for making the time to be here. I also want to especially appreciate General Professor Akilako Sawyer, who has continued to show interest in AU and has been part of this conversation. Thank you very much. We are very proud of you. I will not end without appreciating the Emeritus Professor Obanyo, who has been consistent in connecting to AU programs. Thank you very much for this. And please thank my good friend, our good friend, Dr. Felicia Kwagbezi, and your team for an excellent work in this work. And the Chief of Staff for COREViP, Mr. Ransor Bekwe, we are very proud of you. And my the staff of AU for your support, for your diligence and professionalism. I'm very proud of every one of you. After KCA, we are looking forward to meeting you. First, let's get ready for COREViP 2027. Looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think on that note, we can end. We really want to thank all of you, our distinguished speakers, and all the partners connected here for your insightful contributions and for lending your voice to this important discussion today. As we have witnessed, this is the beginning of something significant. We have launched the Continental Movement, one that will bring together over 1,000 university leaders, policymakers, industry partners, and young innovators in Nairobi, in July next year. Those of us connected here, we are counting on you to be the ambassadors for the conference. Let's mention the conference throughout our engagement more broadly as we engage with our various communities. The communication team will be sending further information, several further packages that we can further disseminate as we engage. We have really at this event commenced a year-long celebration of 60 years of the Association of African Universities. And therefore, we'll be hosting other events throughout the year, and we count on you to join us as we walk this journey together. We have set in motion the process of transformation, one that will reposition African universities for resilience, for relevance, and global impact. And we look forward to connecting with you from today till July 2027 in Nairobi, Kenya. On that note, from all of us here at the Association of African Universities, we say thank you very much, and we look forward to further engagement. Merci beaucoup pour votre participation. À la prochaine. So we will link up very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.